Would you like to support Cubs Out Loud? One way is to join us over on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, patrons get early access to our shows, the pre- and post-show, and various other rewards. You can learn more at patreon.com/CubsOutLoud. Thanks to all our patrons for their support in making this podcast. It's Sunday, March 23rd, 2025. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
And that makes me Gary.
Everyone else is thinking it, and I just say it.
Welcome to Cubs Out Loud, the Bear Podcast of Indeterminate Length, episode number 779. And we have Daddy Hadrian back. Yay!
Everybody's sad.
Thank you guys for having me back.
Oh, go on.
Okay.
And hey guys, welcome. Thanks you guys for having me back. Such a warm and clappy welcome.
So, yes, it's Let's Talk About Sex series. And thank you, Hadrian, for rejoining us. It's been a while. So some things have changed since we last talked. For our patrons, they got a little bit more of the digs on that. But you have a new venture that you're working in these days.
Absolutely. Me and some of my friends all got together, some guys I do porn with. And we put our resources together and our time and our effort, and we built a little game shop here in Cathedral City called Big Deck Energy. And we're dealing in Pokemon and Magic cards and that kind of stuff. And it's definitely more PG-13 than anything we've done before. And we're having a great time, and it's good work. And we invite people to come in and see that. But I still have my side gig. I still have a studio. I still have other work to do. I have mountains of video I have to edit still and piece together. So yeah, I still have. I'm working on both ends of my candle right now.
Well, don't burn it
There's probably
out.
a dirtier analogy I could have used there. I really should have gone for it.
I don't know. But you could still get the innuendo in there. I think we're okay.
Getting spit roasted from both ends. Yes, double dildos.
Yes, all of that.
Yeah. DP.
Yeah. We had West on here. We actually talked about Western exposure and Eastern exposure. So
much fun.
Yeah, we've had some of y'all on before, and we look forward to having you on in the future to discuss the new business venture. But it's been a long time coming, no pun intended. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit and pull back the curtain on adult entertainment with an insider's perspective. And here's the thing. A lot has changed since the 70s and the 80s in terms of adult entertainment. So
maybe also the 90s and maybe the 20s.
It changes really fast. It is pushed to the cutting edge and must survive in very adverse conditions. So yes.
Well, so here's a wild thing. While I was visiting my father today, he is in a facility. Long story short, I'm watching the History Channel, and they're talking about booze, betting, and like porn, and like the people that kind of like made like the beginnings of those industries. Not the beginning of those industries, but like had big influence of them. And they talked about Hugh Hefner and how he was in the military and was a clerk and was like doing pencil sketch drawings, which eventually led to him creating and releasing Playboy. Wildest thing to like be watching while visiting my dad. And then weirder yet is when a nurse's aide comes walking in. There's a reason I'm going to talk about this. The nurse's aide comes walking in, and she looks at the TV, and I'm thinking, oh God, of all the times to come in, because they're like talking about the history of Playboy basically. And she goes, wasn't Marilyn Monroe the first? Like she just spits that out like nothing. Like it's well-known pop culture. And I was like, And I'm like, like I didn't want to answer because I was like, this feels like a catch-22. Like I don't know what's going on here.
You're right on it. That's the thing, is that porn has a right to exist. It is a First Amendment protected thing, but it is incompatible with moral capitalism. So everybody knows about it, but nobody admits they participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
So as someone who has participated
Yes.
in multiple fashions, from my understanding over time, I was just kind of wondering, like, what do you think today's population can learn and or know or take away from the past into the future with I mean, we have to be mindful of the environment that we're in. A lot is changing in certain arenas, as I like to say, for the alphabet family at large, LGBTQI plus, and even just in terms of adult entertainment. Like we were kind of making jokes in pre-show a little bit about inhalants and how like some businesses are being affected immediately in the midst of stuff. So like I think people are a little hyper aware of we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've all lived through the was it Rent Boy saga situation with them getting shut down. So I think people are a little concerned about what that means. And yet at the same time, I don't think I've seen so many naked men and peen and butts and like acts of what, like everything and anything available to us. So the irony is like, legislation is patching and saying like you can't have access to these things unless you like prove that you're, a full-grown adult, and we have the Amendment of Freedom of Speech, and people feel so emboldened. And as we're aging, I am noticing that participants of adult entertainment are also consistently being of a new generation when it comes to that. And so I'm kind of wondering, like, where do we stand today? What do we know from the past that benefits us now? Like in the graphic, you'll see there's a VHS tape, which is kind of a joke, but for those that are longtime listeners, they will know that Damon has an entire library that they amassed years ago in their youth that they still have to this day.
Wow.
Which could be a hot commodity because physical media has become a thing again. Like people want to actually own stuff because otherwise it disappears.
Right. Streaming is not guaranteed anymore. We know that.
Mm.
Hard drives die. SD cards, you turn to dust.
That's true.
So, like, I'm curious on whether or not we think physical media is going to become a thing again. Maybe not.
Maybe not. I think people will start keeping more stuff off streaming and more on their hard drives again. I think people will probably download more. I don't know what physical media people would capture anymore. I think media playing devices maybe again. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but I mean, storage is getting super cheap, so keeping things on your phone now is super easy now. Everybody's got a portable a 512 gigabyte hard drive in their pocket.
Well, and that's a significant change in the landscape of technology, right? Like, I mean, back in the day, you had, huge honking camera equipment and lighting rigs and stuff. And it's not that you don't have those same devices, quote unquote, but they got smaller, lighter.
Oh, yeah.
Much more portable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. But, yeah.
Go ahead.
But, you can't get enough light into a scene. I always tell people turn every light in the place on.
Well, okay. So that brings up an excellent point. Like, I mean, we've seen the videos where you can see the light stand in the background, like with the light ring, as he points to his own background.
I love it. I love that.
But I do find it interesting, like for the amateur at home, I do think that's something that people learn about, that they have to kind of figure out. Like they make stuff, let's say they start their own, JFF or OF like account. They do find it difficult to like, they have to learn the mechanics of filmmaking, basically.
To some extent, yes. I mean, you have to get, does the camera look good? Does it, and learning from it and making mistakes and trying over and over again. And I need to turn on more lights. I need the lights this color. Why do I look blue? Why does, why is my background blurry, that kind of crap, figuring all the flippets and widgets. Why is my file so freaking large when I shoot in an Apple phone? There's a lot of little things you have to learn about over time. And and if you talk to somebody, they can tell you what it is. They can give you all the cheat codes and say, just turn this off, turn this on, flip this and flip that, and turn the lights to this color. And I like doing that. I made a small business out of that over the last few years, of just guys here in town. If they wanted to learn how to do it, I'd say, well, let me show you what I know. I'd say, I'd give them all the lighting tricks I knew. I'd tell them what cheap kits to go buy on Amazon. It's not hard to get started. And from then on, it's just a matter of finding a place and not using the same place over and over again, and keeping the content fresh. And I always tell people to have a progress in mind of what content you want to make. Because I always tell these new boys that would get into porn, I'm like, don't jump into the saddle and take 10 dicks your first time. I mean, everybody wants to do that, but if you do that, then what else are you supposed to do? Are you really supposed to turn around and be a top or something else? I mean, you gotta. But so we would always, when I worked for straight porn in Corbin Fisher, we'd have guys come in and we tell them, do your jerk off scene, and then do your jerk off scene with someone else, and then you guys give each other handies, and then you blow each other, and then you get a blow job, and then you blow someone, and then you top, and then you bottom, and then you bottom for a couple of guys, and then you have an orgy, and blah 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 blah. Next thing you know, you're somewhere in Tijuana.
But I think that makes sense. You don't want, well, gosh, okay, it's going to happen. You don't want to blow your load too soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was, the joke was there and I went there. And I think sometimes that's the case with a lot of the people going on to like basically building their own thing, like because a lot of people, you can do that now. You literally have a camera and you can get a light, and you're like, you can set yourself and start something, and there's a niche out there for everybody. There's room for everyone, as Gia would say. But it often becomes, the adverse of it is like, well, if you put yourself out there and you've done all of the stuff like within, or not everything, but you've done a good amount of things with like a short amount of time, you really have nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then, but when you're producing content like that, used to be how we used to do it, but now you got to keep the pot kind of boiling. So you got to kind of, you have your progression, yes, but you have to be able to move around in it. You have to be able to keep things fresh enough because if you can post the same thing over and over again, and a lot of people make a lot of money doing that, and some people make a lot of money doing the same thing just in different locations. So you really have to think through what you can do, what you're willing to do often, and what you're willing to edit and post.
Yeah.
So, and it sounds like today more than ever, you really need to consider a business mindset.
Oh yeah, because shooting the video is the funnest 1 hour you will have of the process. The other 16 hours are spent in editing and making it look right. If you want to go through all that, some people just do it on their phone. I mean, that's certainly acceptable. But if you want to go a little bit extra and really, give yourself a little bit of touch of class to it, I think you spend just a little bit of time with Adobe. It's only like $10 a month or something like that. Get yourself Premiere, get DaVinci, use iMovie, whatever you got to do a little bit of touch-up work, and get it posted in a more concise way, and you can make your brand crisp. People will notice that, and I think it comes through in the finished product, even if you're just doing the same thing and just shooting on your phone. You certainly can just post your video right from your phone if you want to, and that's fun for a lot of people. I can't do that. I have to go an extra mile for everything I do.
I mean, but shooting on your phone, isn't that very dirty, and you might be hard to get off the screen?
Okay, dad joke.
Oh God. I get it.
Nice, I got it. That's pretty good. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I don't let people touch my phone, so I understand.
They might be able to touch other things, but
Don't touch my phone.
So
go ahead.
No, I mean, you bring up a good point. The reason why I made that comment was I am the only person, I just realized out of the four of us at the panel, that has not done any of this in my lifetime. And there was a time, and I think in our youth, where people were drawn to participating or getting involved in like Bear Films or another, like, media company and doing
Oh
something,
yeah,
you know. Um
it was the bear seal of approval. Like, I'm a bear. I'm not kidding. That's how I felt in the '90s looking at bear porn. That's exactly what I'm going to be in a Brush Creek media production.
Ooh. I mean, it does make sense in a way, especially when there was, again, I use the word niche a lot, and that's kind of what I mean. It's like, if that's what you're seeing and that's what you are attracted to and that's what you believe that you are, like that sort of, and you think you could do it, then by all means, that's what you would like, oh, I want to do that and I want to be there. And that's sort of that would be your claim to fame in a way. Um, uh, I don't necessarily think that's the only way to become famous, but in our sexually charged bear culture, definitely.
Yeah, I mean that was a thing of the time. I don't know if that's really quite the case anymore. Like the only thing I'm currently aware of is possibly stocky dudes might be a little bit of like the modern version of that, maybe, question
Eh,
mark.
bear films is still a thing. I mean, they still do. They. I don't know. I feel like they've kind of swerved into classic territory, but I still
Uh-huh.
like them. Um, I I don't know. I know for a little while it was like if you could get onto, what was that, Bear 411, that website that guy, that tyrant Greg used to run.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, I remember that it was hard for guys that were not quite bearish enough to get onto the site. But if you had a profile on it, I mean, Greg's thought you were bearish enough. So that was like, for a moment, there was like this seal of approval thing that was going on. Um,
I could, well,
We've talked about it before.
yeah, we
yes.
talked about
I don't remember what episode that was, Damon, but he did talk about his own personal experience with that issue back in the day. But yeah, I think we've transitioned a lot more to like people being, I guess, independent creators, not necessarily being aligned with a media house, quote unquote.
Right. Self-defining, absolutely.
Right.
These concepts have spread far beyond the bare mailing list, and we can all appreciate them and self-define. And there's so many gray areas of otters and pups and stuff. There's room for everyone, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
I was going to say, there's all kinds of other identities that I keep defining every day. People who are demi, or people who are bulls, people who are cuck only. I don't know. There's all kinds of new sexualities being invented. And so it's something you were hearkening back to earlier about, how
Mhm.
far we've come since the '70s and on now today and new regulations with, people being scared of poppers and that kind of stuff. I'm like, the sexual revolution already happened. It's the genie is way out of the bottle. We're on so many wishes at this point. Because it's multi-generational. It's more than just our grandparents now. It's our grandparents. We're talking about this genie came out of the bottle sometime around probably when jazz was a thing, and then World War II. It seems like, porn has been a thing since drawn and pictures have just been mass produced. It's something that it's just part of the printing. It's part of the press. And
Right.
there are people who try to put caps on, or to try to find ways to limit its ability, but it exists. Like something I talk about is blue counties with blues laws, or dry counties, or
Mhm.
counties that, or even states that don't allow alcohol sales on Sundays. It kind of falls in that category where the religious voice has gotten to the point where they've gotten to codify some things that they believe in, but we're like, freedom of religion includes freedom from it. So
Mm.
I like to keep that in mind when I'm thinking about people who try to hearken about morality when it comes to porn and other vices. It's like, no. We have more important ways we can teach people to do better with these things besides fear of their imaginary friends.
That part.
True. In today's world, I'm imagining now more than ever, like the legitimacy. I don't know what word to use. That's the only one that comes to mind. Of like the content that's being created, I think
Hmm.
requires more of that like documenting.
Mm.
I mean, that was a whole thing for a while. I can't remember what studio did that, where like you had this whole intro where they did the interview with the actors and and showed them actually like signing off legally that they were willing to participate and that kind of stuff.
So they did not have to do that. That's part of the thrill. That was just good fucking filmmaking right there, is what that was. Like, oh,
Okay.
you're actually how old? Oh, see, it's he's 19. So that's something like that. I know exactly what that is.
So the reason I bring that up though is I'm wondering like how much a person needs to consider that stuff these days,
So
in terms of creating content or
porn is still highly unregulated here in the United States. It is a First Amendment right. So the first thing, it was like that for a very long time until the 80s. And I like telling the story about Tracy Lords. A lot of people know her as an MTV VJ, but before that, she was doing porn in the 80s, and she screwed around and did a lot of porn. And then on her 18th birthday, decided to come out as 18, where she had lied and used fake documents and a lot of other things to get because you would just come up at the door and you would show your ID and they'd let you in the studio. That was the check and the balance. They had a huge outcry across the country about it because, of course, everybody had to burn these videos and take them off, rightfully so. That's totally fine. But she did lie, and there was suits and all kinds of other stuff, and Congress got involved, and there was some congressional hearings under the Reagan administration trying to demonize porn. And one of the things that came out about that was that, hey, there are studios that are run by women. Some of these videos are directed and produced by women. These women are in these videos of their own volition. And they showed off like Vixen Studios, the Vivid Vixen and that kind of stuff, showing off those kinds of companies to say, hey, these companies are run by women. This is not a slave industry or something like that. And Congress backed down and they said, okay, but you need to do something, and we're going to introduce this new form. And it was called the 2257. And it was just an ID verification form. And that's for a long time, that was the only form that was necessary in order to have someone make pornos. And it's super simple. It just says, what's your name? Where do you live? How old are you? What documents were used to verify that? Super simple. I mean, it's just like an I-9 you'd have to fill out to get a job these days. So nothing too fancy. And for a long time, that was it until the internet came along. And then the first thing people did with the internet was start, using it for porn, as we all know. And if you've ever, and of course, then there was Pamela Anderson and her fiasco with Tommy Lee Jones, or Tommy, what was that his name? Yeah, well, I can't remember his name now. Not Tommy Lee Jones. That's the wrong guy.
It's just
Tommy Lee. she had her fiasco with him, and then they came back, and the internet, the lawyers specifically said, okay, if you're going to do something on the internet with something's content, you have to have a different form, like a model release as well. So nowadays you have to have 3 forms. You have to have your 2257 that says you verified their age. You have to have the content release that says, hey, I understand you're going to release this content on the internet. This isn't for your private collection. And then third, you have to have a model release of some kind that just kind of says that they agree to you having possession and releasing it and that kind of stuff on other platforms, so that you have legal rights to it. So yeah, there's 3 things you have to do nowadays. It's super easy to set up that stuff on Google Forms and get people to sign it. It's super easy to print them out and have them sign it really quick. It's still highly unregulated industry. You just have to verify that you're getting people's permission to do the basic things. That's like, we are both legal adults. We understand what we're doing, and you understand what I'm going to do with the video that I take. And there's nothing unreasonable about any of those steps.
So would you say that the porn industry nowadays is very self-regulating, with some already put into place governmental regulations, but then the industry goes above and beyond that for good measure?
Yes, absolutely. That's proven by how adherent we are to protecting ourselves from using content that doesn't involve people who are the right age. Of course, that's just so easy to do, to just keep going way above age. You have to. It's so easy. I'm a bear, so it's not even in my range. I think for other content creators, it's not that hard either. There are plenty of 20-something good-looking girls out there who are willing to say, "Ooh, daddy, I'm 18, please." So go do that. It's easy to make content. There's plenty of people out there. Like I said, the sexual revolution already happened. We're talking about kids of millennials, kids of Gen Xers that grew up on, having more access than they really should have. But they know what they want to do, and that's fine. There are plenty of checks and balances to protect ourselves. So, checking IDs is the simplest thing, and everybody does it. I haven't been on a set yet that wasn't a thing. I've been on straight sets before, and they have monitors, they have safety checkers, they have a nurse on staff usually, or they have access to one. So the girls that are there do feel safe, and they're not alone or anything like that. So it's very self-regulating. They, I believe in the appearance propriety. That's something I talk about a lot. It's not just, I worked in federal government contracting for a while, so I know that it's not just enough to do the right thing. It has to appear to be the right thing. You can't just be having dinner with a business associate's wife or daughter and him and be having private time with them. You could be discussing work things, but even if you're not, somebody could see that and think it's wrong. So you don't have those kinds of outside contact. You don't fraternize.
Right.
So I think that the way I run my business and the way I do my stuff is very much like just keep your nose clean, and I think that's very easy to do in this industry.
Yeah, I do sometimes see that. I think that it's weird. I know that there's this whole, again, maybe moral issue where people see like, oh, well, you've done porn, especially back then, like, oh, you're doing porn, like you're awful human being. And I think about it and I go, but you do realize like a lot of the porn actors and porn studios and everyone else pretty much have to hold certain almost higher regulations in a way, even if they're doing it on their own, they still in a way have to do something to kind of not only keep everything legitimate, but also to kind of protect themselves should something go wrong, if something goes wrong.
And just the documentation, there's also some not really health regulations. Some studios do follow some OSHA standards when it comes to gloves and condoms and that kind of stuff, but most people do not, because nowadays we've got access to things like Doxy and PrEP. So most actors that I know of are on that, just protecting themselves. But in years gone by, it wasn't unusual for a studio to offer testing. You get tested a week before, you get tested the day of your scene. That's kind of gone away in an age of more preparation instead. There used to be some risk of that. There used to be risk of pregnancy and making porn. There used to be risk of all kinds of stuff in years gone by, and these are bodily functions. This is not stunt work. This is not acting. We don't get the luxury of shooting. We're not shooting a horror film where the blood is made of corn syrup. That's the real goo we're squirting out. So it's there are some people who fake it out or do some other weird stuff, but for the most part, for the 95% of us, we're all shooting the real deal here, and we're sweating and we're huffing and puffing. We're not just we don't get to jump out a window one time and that 3-second scene is it. We have to sit there and hump for five minutes. So we're doing the real athleticism here. There's real work going on here. It's not we were taking real risk. And there are some people, even California here, there was a little while where they appointed some dumb czar to be a OSHA standard over porn or something like that, and that didn't last very long, and it was a weird shakedown event. But it was really just giving them an excuse to barge. This was like in late 2010s or early 2010s maybe, and they were barging into studios saying none of these people are wearing condoms, and why are these light sockets this close to the wall, and just criticizing things on construction standards just so they could get access to the space and see what was going on in there. So porn gets shaken down occasionally, liquor gets shaken down occasionally. There's all kinds of different industries that get the ire occasionally. That poppers apparently get shaken down occasionally. Yeah. I'm sure that some art places will get shaken down just because of the kind of art they're trying to carry.
So you bring up something I'm intrigued about, Hadrian. Is there much of the faking anymore these days? Like, I ask in the age of 4K and like high res and all this stuff. I'm like, can people even really kind of get away with that stuff anymore? I mean, cheating camera is one thing, and editing, like, I'm going to say this, like, I'm going to say editing like an ejaculation from a different time of day that's movie magic, I guess we'll call it. Like, but there was a time I remember infamously people were talking about like, that's not really cum. Like, that's lubricant or that's some concoction or, you know what I mean? Like, so that's I guess that's where my mind went. I was like, oh, can you really even cheat anymore? Get away with that kind of stuff?
So I've used fake cum to enhance an already ejaculating scene, like when we have to get a B shot and I shot, but it's just not, it's a little watery and it's not quite showing up in the light, so we'll just squirt some fake on there, and I've done that a couple of times, but there's still the real deal in there. Typically, it is a lot more work to fake anything than it is just to do the real deal.
Okay.
That's what it comes, lining a tube up with your dick or getting a fake or all that other mess is really. I know there's that one guy who, what's his, I don't want to name names, but he shoots a unnatural amount of ejaculate. It is incredible and it's impressive to watch, but he's doing something. And it took me a while to figure out he was doing some kind of ejection thing into his urethra. That sounds like work. I'd rather just jerk off and smoke a bowl after and be like, yay, video's done. Oh, it wasn't this much this time. Sorry, guys. See you next video. I'd rather, instead of like having to deal with all that, because I'm like, that's we're already taking risk. Why add to it?
I agree. I think more work to fake it seems like just let it happen naturally. And I kind of feel that way. I don't mind if the shot is not like this gallon of semen just like flying out everywhere. Like that's fine. If it's just a little dribble, I'm okay with that. Like that's sort of almost want to say I like it more in a way when it's like you knew that this is actually what happened. Like this is just
right.
Like maybe someone saved, like they didn't come for like several days or whatever, and maybe they like saved their like shot and whatever, or as Gary was talking about, like, oh, this is maybe a shot that was actually earlier in the day and whatever. That's fine. It's just I prefer.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I like to advise people that if you're doing porn under your own name or making content under your name, be as real as possible with that. Don't go, if you're, now if it's your shtick and that's your thing and you're doing the big load thing, if that's your deal, then go with it. That's fine. But remember that whatever is your subtitle, you got to hold on to that. You got to live up to it. If you're Joey the 10-incher, where is that? You can't be showing your titties then. Everybody knows what the main event is at that point. So if you're going to do something under your name, do the real deal. If you're going to go into studio work, then do your movie magic, then do your tricks and all that other stuff. But from your real content, be you and show what you can do. That way you're kind of auditioning for the people who matter most, who are going to honestly keep the lights on instead between those little measly checks you'll get between studios.
So let's talk about enhancements, because the day and ages have kind of changed. There is a product line that I am seeing promoted now more than not. It appears that most likely people are getting brand deals, is going to be my guess, because they're most likely making content and putting it on a streaming platform like OF or JFF. And this isn't I'm going to take the Cialis Viagra. This is, I don't know if you've heard of Friend of Dorothy. that nonverbal reaction gave it all away.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I have many friends who do Friends of Dorothy. More power to them. Make your money. I get it. Do it. I bought a few of them myself. I'm happy to support.
So
but that's just a zinc.
Well, but that's just it. Is like they have a couple different product lines. So they have like stuff to help you bottom, which is basically cellulose fiber. And then they've got things that help you stay hard, and then they've things that apparently give you more ejaculate, like more volume. And I actually saw some people kind of push back a little bit and be like, first off, like not to I'm not trying to dog this business. From my understanding, it's a great business, legitimate products, no issues there. But people were like, if you want help with bottoming, there's a couple things you could do. One, personal diet. Two, like you could just buy like konjac root powdered in a gelatin capsule from Amazon, like for like way less. And I thought it very interesting. And someone else was like, or you could just take a zinc, supplement. I mean, like, it was kind of like, it was intriguing to me that I don't want to say they were pulling back the curtain and trying to like, delegitimize, but they were like, just be aware, like, you don't have to technically go this route, there are other opportunities to get the same effects, I guess.
It's a matter of marketing. It's a matter of I want to support this person is what you're doing in those actions. It's a marketing gimmick. It's very nice. It works really really well. I certainly pulled in. I've bought it from a few of them myself. Their product does create more ejaculate if you take it consistently. It's pretty impressive stuff. I liked it. I like the hard stuff. The bottom stuff, it's fine. I'm good with what I take. I'm an old man already. I eat my brand. I eat my brand flakes every morning. But it was more about supporting my friends, and I think that's the route to go for. If you've got a few extra dollars you want to throw at your friends, I think that's a great route to go. But if you want to get it, if you want to go the route on Amazon, certainly you can give your money to Jeff Bezos too. I mean, you're feeding something. It's a matter of volume at that point, and it's a matter of branding. I don't knock either route people want to go to those. I've been taking supplements for a long time to keep my stuff going strong. I've taken Viagra. I've taken all the Cialis, Levitra. I haven't done Trimix.
I was going to ask.
There's lots of options. There are lots of options out there to keep things long, strong, and down to get the friction on. But then there's the herbal routes. I for a long time I took what was it called? The Holy Grail cum mix is what they called it. And it was a Reddit forum from like 12 years ago, and it talked about Figum and Lycidine and some other stuff you could take that would increase your load size. And you had to really take a lot of these pills. It was a bit of a handful, honestly. I took them for a while, and yeah, it made my loads bigger. It was fun. I shot quite a bit of content with it. It was really cool. But it's a lot of pills to take, and it's a little bit of money to spend. That they have it all compact into a pill form is genius. I'm glad somebody's finally gotten on that train, and I hope more companies do that as far as the load size one goes. But there are herbal mixes you can go for, but you're going to be taking a whole bunch of them. I'm used to taking Metamucil in a scoop form where you have this big glass of orange stuff you've got to guzzle down, or eat my brand cereal, and that's fine. But some people want to take a few pills a day. So choose your form and keep yourself healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of those enhancements. I don't think there's anything wrong with Trimix either. That's the next level where you go to a doctor who puts a little shot in your dick, and it causes your cylinders in your dick to dilate, and they fill with blood, kind of against your will for about 3 hours. Unlike Cialis and Levitra and Viagra, where you get an erection that's more voluntary. You have to be turned on. You have to be willing. Trimix is going to go with or without you. And if you do it wrong, if you're at a party and somebody says, "Let me give you this," I advise against that. Definitely go to a doctor and get that thing measured for what you need, because everyone's different. You may only need a little bit. You may need a lot. I don't know. Doctors seem to have a magic wheel of spin they do. And I know friends that have big old weenies and only need like 1 milligram. And other friends who've got equal thickness, and suddenly they're needing 7 milligrams just to keep going the same amount of time. Different people have different needs. Go to your doctor, figure that stuff out. And once you've done it, though, I mean, it's great. People go to these parties. I live here in Palm Springs. It's it's a bit of a retirement place. There's a lot of old fellas out here who are very eager to enjoy their retirement, and while they can, and they're all using Trimix, and they're going to these parties and going for 4 and 5 hours, and they have a blast. It's great. It isn't for porn. It's for fun. And then they might do a porno. Let's do a porn first, and then just have a party after. And that's good. It's a good time. I mean, it's not a bad thing. Everything still feels good. Everything's really fun, and you just slap some butter and some lube on there and sizzle it up.
You did really good, Hadrian, in explaining all that. I do want to just give credit to David and his non-facial. The moment you explained the administration, he was like, "Nope, not a thing, not doing that, not ever."
I have heard about Trimix. I have seen people talk about it. It was like several years ago. It was like a big thing at the leather events I was going to. And the minute you tell me, "Oh, you're given a shot in your dick," I'm like, "Nope, I'm out. I'm good." Like I understand it. I'll respect your choice to do that. I don't like needles. I don't like pain. So,
No, there's no pain with it. It is the teeny. It is a very short, very
I
small micro needle. It is not very large at all.
yeah, I take Wegovy now, so I
Yeah.
understand the like little needle and that sometimes there's no pain. But for me, sometimes there is pain. Like just no matter how small the little needle is, I
Some
don't.
guys get a little. Some guys get a little tattoo mark. They get a little target spot, so they know they get that spot every time because it is a bit of a thing. And if you're a big boy with a big old belly, you're like working around. You gotta have someone do it for you, like aim. Not kidding. That is a thing.
I
I've
get
seen
it, and
No, I
I
know. I'm laughing because David's like doubling, tripling down now. He's like,
Little
nope.
tattoo on there? Nope, not for you.
no, no. I'm good. Just the idea of it, and again, if it like you said, if it works for you and you can do it and you want to do it, then by all means, I agree, absolutely, 100%. Please do it through a doctor. Get someone that is medically trained and knows what the fuck they're doing to
Right.
like to like administer. Because like
Well, they only show you that once, and after that, it's your turn.
well, yeah,
You have
I
to do
know,
it
but
on your own.
you get the dosage at least. If
Yeah.
nothing else, you get the dosage, so you know
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing. So don't just like go to some random like trimix party or go to some
At
place
the
and like
at the play parties here, there are people who are like have little like I'll come administer. Come here. I'm a nurse. I'll take care of you. That's all they do at the party. They get to play with all the junk and get them all ready. It's like better than fluffing.
I already know David. Dave, I see the wheels turning. David's like, I want to see credentials. Like, I want documentation. Like, I trust to know. I'm no boo boo to fool that you're just like, oh,
no.
you're a nurse. Like
That part. I need more information, especially if you're just
Yeah.
going to give everybody the same amount and I know better. Like
No. They give you
medications.
yours, but yeah,
I get
you
it.
have to
I
bring your
get
own
it.
pouch and your own stuff.
Okay, that's cool.
No,
Good for
they're
them.
not just administering. They're there. You bring your own. It's BYO
BUI
trimix.
treatment.
bring your own injection, something like that.
But just yeah. But again, like if that's your thing, good for you. I'll be over here.
Lloyd in our live chat just said, I want a medical degree so I can get invited to Trimax parties.
But there are other options as well now. One that I'm really enjoying that seems to be freely accessible. That I don't know what's going to happen with it. We'll see. But there's this Max Fuel stuff. It's also it comes in like honey packs and sport drinks and other stuff. You get like little drinks you can get in powdered form and that kind of stuff. And I like that stuff pretty good. It does have it does do a really good job of keeping the equipment going. I found out about this stuff some years ago from Black Twitter because they were talking about honey chicken, and I'm like, "What is honey chicken?" And it was women talking about serving up chicken for their man, and they would make it with this special honey, and they were getting it from the Oriental stores, is what they were calling it. But it was they would go into these stores that have like a lot of Asian products, and they'd have this honey, and it had a lot of ginseng and other stuff in it. And they would make chicken, like chicken for the man, and they make it with this honey. It's like, here, honey, eat this. And the man was ready to go. And they were dosing their man, is what they were doing. And I thought that was genius. I'm like, where is this honey? And I went and found some. And then it's been trickling into the market as other products. And now it's honey. Max Fuel has a honey version. And you can go to your local here in LA or here in California. You can get it at most of the leather stores or any kind of head shop and that kind of stuff. They usually have it, and it's great. And I put it in my coffee, and I drink some, and I'm good for 3 days.
Wow.
So you can get some over-the-counter stuff nowadays. It's pretty rare to go.
So I've never heard of this before, and I'm like, my mind is going in several different directions. First of all, I'm like, hello, like consent. Can we talk about that for a moment? But anyways,
I mean, that was a big thing. That's the like we shouldn't be like don't y'all.
It's just strange territory.
Listening out there, please don't like microdose your husband or significant other with like Max Fuel honey chicken. Like, please don't.
I'm not endorsing anything, but if you serve your man chocolate or you serve your man coffee and give him caffeine, and you get, there's all kinds of chemical doses you can. I mean, women are chemists. Your cook is a chemist.
I'm good.
So that being said, I did happen to look. So the FDA actually has an article here about apparently there was a product called Go Man Fuel, not to be confused with Max Fuel, I guess. And I'm like, oh, how interesting. It's FDA laboratory analysis confirmed that Man Fuel Shooter, I guess that's the product name, contained a couple of active ingredients for the prescription drug Cialis, used to treat ED.
Yeah, there was
Very
a
interesting.
there have been a few products that have been pulled off the market over many a year.
Yeah.
There's a cat and mouse game, just like with poppers. There's been a cat and mouse game with these over-the-counter ED drugs. And sometimes they find that one has cheated and has gotten hold of some expired tildopyl that's supposed to be used in some other format. And they, instead of destroying it or doing something else or reconfiguring it like they were supposed to, they just pumped it into another product like this. And there have been a few times where the products have been pulled. And then there's products who claim to be, ginseng and all natural and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting.
It
Very
always
interesting.
weird, and I'm a big believer in like don't do things like this alone in a way, or at least if you're going to use something, if you've never used it before, mind you.
These aren't hard drugs or anything. These are over-the-counter products. I understand. Yeah.
But like,
I mean, these products are definitely not meant to be used alone.
yeah.
I
I mean,
I mean, you can goon yourself to oblivion if you want to, but that sounds like a lot of tread on the tire you're going to wear out.
I mean, if you want to go for a while,
I said 3 days, baby. You better find a friend.
That part, I was like, oh, okay.
3 days on Max Fuel. That sounds like, I don't know. That could be.
That sounds like vacation.
Yeah,
That's a weekend. That's a weekend.
Oh, I was going to say
that's coffee at 3:00 on Friday afternoon, and you're good till Monday morning.
Well, I was just going to say that sounds like you went to TBRU. Like, I mean, like you went to an event, like you took that on the day that you arrived, you were good to go. So, in that case,
3 days of running to the bathroom from your cubicle to show off your pictures to somebody and keep things going and teased and built up, and yeah, there's applications.
So true, very true. So I'm curious about like where things are today and looking towards the future. Like there was a time where I thought like AR, VR, that was going to be a whole thing. And I hate to say it, but humans, they're not down with technology advancing. Like if it's too complex and too difficult, they're like, nah, I'll pass. Like I'm just not into it.
With porn, it's cheaper just to freaking do it the real thing. It's just cheaper and easier to have people say, move this way and do this thing. There are some enhancements that have been made, with how AI works and graphics, and you can write in what you want it to do and it'll spit it out. I was looking at AI engines that do that stuff recently, but they're mostly novelty. They're not very good. They may turn off the ethical filters, but it's still uncanny valley. It's it may get better, but there's the missing human element. There's the missing accessibility. I could see this person. I could access this person. There's, you get to pick your pedestal. You can pick, that's how it is with porn. You can pick how accessible you want it to be. It can be someone so high up, that Christy Brinkley style porn, that you'll never meet them. You might get their signature one day in an event kind of thing, but you'll never get the chance. And then there's, I can like the girl next door or a guy next door or whatever kind of porn you want. There, you can pick your pedestal on
right.
Where you want to go with that. I think people want that level of accessibility. There is a limitation to the allure of virtualized products, because it's, at the end of the day, it's not real. At the end of the day, it's not accessible. It's something, people want to see instructional. We're still human beings. We're all monkey see, monkey do, and we're all still doing that to a point. We're still human beings, and we have to be able to see human beings doing stuff to know what we can do. And I can't do that. And it can try, but it's still not real. Now I think there's something to be said for artistic forms of CGI and that kind of stuff. I think furry porn is one of my favorites to go and dip into occasionally, see how they've advanced, and they're using new tools to make their fantasies come to life. That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to be said for expressing story and fantasy and storylines through porn. and erotic art that isn't porn, and then that there's all kinds of gray lines with that. And it saddens me to hear any kind of regulation. I hear there's some stuff in Texas that's coming about that's looking to limit expression. That's bothersome. I'm not sure. That's not the direction I'd like to see this country going, and it's not a direction I want to see any kind of free speech going. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I know it's currently unregulated. It's currently, there's a lot of pressure to keep things to kind of cut off what we can and can't do, and to make sure we're in there. There's attempts to overregulate us. I can tell you that posting on OnlyFans and JustFans is like night and day these days. OnlyFans requires a whole lot more documentation. If the other person is not on OnlyFans, it's next to impossible to get something posted and keep something posted. Because because they're based in Europe. They want this over documentation to the point of, if you're not just showing off just yourself, you almost can't post anything with anyone else. If you're outdoors, if you're even if you say you're on private property, even if you say you got permission, even if you they want to know, they want to get really invasive about verifying every little thing you've done. And that's not American. We don't do that here, I'm personally responsible for anything I post. Somebody needs to come and talk to me, not you. You are a platform, is the way I like to view them, but they get really invasive about verification of a lot of detail. Just for fans, they're based in the United States and Canada, I think. I'm a little fuzzy on that. But they are at least they have servers and stuff here in the United States, and they're bound to U.S. regulations. I can post pretty much anything I want, within reason, of course, within my brand. I have my own documentation. I have my own 2257s. I maintain all that. If anyone wants to come and knock on my door, I'll be like, here's all the documentation you need. I do recommend that in this new age of I don't know what to call this, concern and worry that the jackboots could come looking and banging on doors. They've collected a lot of information about us over the last 30 years. There's nothing we can do. If they want to come knocking, I recommend everyone get their house in order in some capacity. That's not hard to do, honestly. And anybody can look at my body of work and quickly identify all the adult males in my videos. That's not a problem for me. If somebody wants to question their ages, that's fine. I've got verifications. I've got my 2257s. I've got my model releases. I've got everything I need. And if I recommend people maintain those to some degree, it's not hard to get someone to say, hey, smack your signature on these forms real quick. Let me, I even recommend getting a picture just really quick in the video. Snap, I got a photo of your ID. We're done. That's it. Three forms. You can even compress them into one form if you want to, just to cover yourself. Just say, sign this one thing, this anything at all. Get that verification. Get a form. I even like, if I'm doing something really quick with someone and I don't have time, I'm like, hey, do you consent to me videoing? Yes. Okay, cool. And then I tell them, no nods at the camera. You have to say yes. So I've done that a couple of times, and that seems weird, and it does break the flow. But that's business, man. Business is cold and empty and weird and gross, and you got to stop and say, are we doing business? Yay! Okay.
And I think that's sort of the difference, though, in a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of people, given that this like porn and having sex and stuff, there's this very like not nuance, but it's always been this like natural thing, and we want to just like have things like get it and go and that kind of thing. But reality is, it is a business, and to protect yourself, to protect the other persons that you're doing things with, sometimes you're going to have to go through those consent things and get those signatures, or get that notification, or get that hard yes, and not, to make sure that should something happen, we're all protected.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, because heaven forbid something goes wrong, and you have to deal with the potential negative effect of that.
But the realism of it is, the actual realism of it is there's a lot of people posting on Blue Sky. There's a lot of people posting on X Hamster and whatever porn sites are left and whatever countries they're at. We're all living like it's still 2005. And I see a lot of, dick sucking in the park that people have series of. I see a lot of glory holes. I see a lot of, there's a lot of content out there that's people's brands that put them at risk. And at the end of the day, that person is in an adult space. He went on an adult site to meet these people, whatever case it may be. They would, it's this weird slippery slope of, um, just like poppers, just like, just it's really as far as liquor and anything else, any other devices. It's like, you're not supposed to manufacture those. We've made that illegal. Well, we're talking about adults doing adult things. Why are we interfering with that?
Right.
And even if it can't be, even if it's morally, not even reprehensible, morally browed upon or whatever, it does have a right to exist. And if you look at the body of work of a vast 99.99999% of the people who are out there posting content on OnlyFans or Just for Fans, it's legal content. You don't hear a lot of stories about crazy. There are crazy shit that happen out there, but not in the circles I travel in, and not in the fans you guys are going to have. It's a weird area. I hate to say people keep documenting for all the hookups and tricks you got, but guard yourself and stay safe, and don't get risky. If you're going to do stuff in public, maybe don't. Maybe get permission to go somewhere that's more on a go. There are plenty of gay campgrounds to go to. Lord knows I traveled to plenty of them last summer. I highly recommend a lot of them. They are cheap and easy to go to. Support your local gay businesses. Talk to your local bartender. Find out who the boss is of your local gay bar, your local bathhouse. Can I shoot? Should I shoot here? It's not hard to ask. Networking is the most funnest part of being in porn. If you try to do it all alone, just shooting your own content, trying to meet onesie twosie guys and keep things all to yourself, you're not going to get very far. Porn is going to be about the friends you make, the people you connect with, the people you invite in. You do camera work? Come over here. You know how to do lights? Will you come set this up for me? Will you show me you can edit stuff? Show me how you do this. That kind of fun networking. And then being like, hey, we're friends, and you want to shoot some scene with me? Hey, I'm not your type, but you want to video it for me? Can you edit it? And then sharing the load until you may find yourself with enough people to start a studio all of a sudden, where all of a sudden you've got people to fill in your little office and you're doing stuff. You may find yourself with enough people to start some other kind of business where you're like, oh, we're doing this now. You might find yourself in a large automobile. Make friends along the way and learn new skills and be open to it. And don't say you're just something and try to focus on it. You're not so masculine that you're only dropping in on set to drop loads. You're figure it out and make friends and network along the way and pick up new skills. It's so much fun to protect yourself with a network of people than it is to be like, I got attacked and I'm posting this on Blue Sky. Does anyone know anybody else like this? Oh, I see there's a rash of people who've been experiencing this. If you all know each other, you can all have resources and help. And eventually you guys might be able to say you can lawyer up and get a retainer on this, or at least find someone amongst you who is. Resources are fun. A lot of people have day jobs. It's fun to find out that kind of stuff.
I mean, I think you bring up a good point, kind of bringing it back to where we were starting about Hadrian, is like looking at, when you said networking, that's not quite what I thought you meant when you first were talking about networking, but it does make good comprehensive sense, like, to establish relationships with other people who have skills that benefit, mutually, and where that goes from there. Good deal. So that being in mind, is there other things that you have as suggestions or thoughts or things that people should keep in mind for if they want to get into this arena or are thinking about rejoining it, maybe because they've been away for a while?
Keep it simple. Have fun with it. Don't do things you don't want to do. That's for sure. Vet people a little bit. I think it's still perfect. I'm a little old fashioned, but I think it's perfectly fine to meet people in a public space and see how they can act in that kind of environment before you pull them into your private space or your office or your studio to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some power in sitting a boy down on your black leather couch and being like, okay, so why should I put you in my porno, boy?
But I do agree with that. I think that especially the vetting part of it, I think that's kind of important in a way. If you're essentially literally opening yourself up, depending on what you're doing, to someone, you might want to get to know them a little bit better. Talk to them first or do something.
Oh
Before
yeah.
you go to do now, especially if you're doing it and you're making content. And I mean, yes, if you are just fucking, like, I still think you should like maybe do a little bit of vetting, or if you want to have that like quick little like quickie fling, like that's fine too. But if you're inviting someone in to collaborate with them on something that you are essentially putting out there, whether it's for a studio or for your just for fans or whatever it is, I do think like some form of like, is this person somebody that I can trust? Is this person someone that one I'm going to enjoy? If your chemistry is god awful, then there's the possibility that you're not going to make a good
Well,
thing. I mean,
so
yes,
so
it
so meeting in a cafe, yeah, that works. You can also look at someone's body of work just to deal because you should be working with someone you can easily view their content and say, okay, you've got a Blue Sky, you've got an X, whatever you're using these days. You've got a Discord, something like that. You can check out their body of work. You're like, okay, I see what you've done. You look like you've worked with some people I know. You've done some scenes I like, and let's do this. There's and then you can there's different ways to vet people out besides just I like meeting, especially if they're brand new. Like we got to meet in public, but there's ways to meet people out, but there's also moments to feel people out and realize that you're doing business, and you got to say, okay, this person is terrible, but I really need this content, and I really like this guy, and he will work out really, really well. So if I can get him to shut the fuck up for 5 minutes, we can make the scene.
that's
I
what
have I
you're
have I have
for.
I have powered through a few attitudes. I've powered through some I want to say drug issues, but some Monday morning issues. I do have a habit of shooting on Monday and Tuesdays just because they're nice and clear days and there's no one in my neighborhood and I can shoot outdoors. But there's some people who come in a little hungover. I feel like, okay,
Oh,
baby.
baby.
So I've there you will encounter a lot of things, and that's as long as you view that as part of the fun, you'll get somewhere. Um, Definitely stay safe out there, especially when if you're in a rougher part of the country. There's some people who haven't quite figured things out yet. Definitely meeting in public is where it's at. I would even advise against it. I am totally on a none of that rule right now. So no, I'm kind of not cruising just because I don't want to be around those people right now. I don't even want to. If I saw a MAGA shirt through a glory hole right now, I would tear it apart. Motherfucker! How dare you? This face is not for you, bro. You gave up on all this. You don't get none.
You missing out on the best head you could have ever had.
Right? I swear me and all the other guys in the glory hole would join in instantly into a Glory Gaynor song and it would just be over for him. We would just instantly synchronized dancing the works. It would just happen. The magic would just be there for me.
I love the idea.
But I am not in the mood to shoot with anyone who's on the fence or curious or doesn't know what they are, bisexual or questioning or anything. I know my level. And I recommend that everyone else, as you get to do porn, or if you're already doing porn, if you're looking to get back into porn, know your level. And that sounds like a really cool Hollywood thing to say, but it's really more about knowing your capabilities. If you're into fisting, if you're into hardcore BDSM, if you just like blowjobs, if you want to do glory hole scenes, if you want to have your own private glory hole in your home, whatever you're willing to do, I always say know your brand and really figure that out and do it. And get people into that scene who are already into it, who know what the hell they're doing. Vet them out on those standards as well. Have you been to a glory hole before? Then you know what to do with this one. I know it sounds pretty simple to tell people how to do it, but you may saw some people will freak out. I don't know. I can't see you, man. It's starting to freak me out. I'm like, have you just not been to a glory hole before? No. I'm like, okay. This is not really, but if you're into a certain scene and you want to reproduce that scene, if you're into big toys, if you're into, giving handies, if you want to goon for an hour and a half, make sure you find someone who's compatible with that. It can make the scene with you and make it hot and make it good. Vet them on more than just, you don't want to vet them just on, are you personally okay with me? You want to vet them out on, do you know how to make this content and do we know what we're doing? And I found that people who are part of the sexual revolution, who've already engaged in this, who already know their capabilities, already have a certain mindset, and that's advantageous.
Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't had any political issues once you get higher into higher level kinks.
That sounds like a discussion for another episode. We'll just pencil that one away for later.
Hey, new series. Yeah, the landscape of relationships, the landscapes of sex.
Ooh.
So true, so true.
Maybe a crossover between Daddy Hadrian and Dr. Ed.
Oh, that would be very
Ooh.
interesting. Yeah, we have a recurring guest, Dr. Edward Angelini Cook, who is a counselor, therapist,
Yes.
was very sex positive and geek positive. So, yeah, that would be interesting. Meeting in the minds.
Be fun. I'd enjoy that.
Give me something to think about. All right. But it sounds like we're gonna kind of move into wrap up and then post show here. But no, I think those are really good points, Hadrian, that you bring up about the vetting piece, because I have a sneaking suspicion people who are new, they just don't know that, like they're not thinking about it. And of course, there's lessons to be learned, but you know.
And there's some red flags there, by the way, that you may be picking up on that tell you that maybe you're just not ready for porn. Maybe you need to explore more and figure things out more. I mean, you may think I know I wanted to do porn because I wanted to show off what I knew. I knew a lot already as I was approaching a late teenager. I had these skills and capabilities, and I remember scaring my teacher that I want to make porn. And I had a reason I wanted to, and I felt instructional, and it warms my heart as I've gotten older. And cubs tell me, "Oh yeah, I watched your porn and I learned how to do this," or it made me feel confident in doing these things, and that's great. I felt, like I said earlier, monkey see, monkey do, and I'm very, very conscious of the camera and angle and keeping that going. I think I forgot I was going with that, but yeah.
It's okay.
It's all good.
Well, there's plenty of ways for folks to give us some feedback on this, and also if you have any questions to let us know about things. Jeff, you want to tell folks where they can do that at?
Why, Gary, of course. There's plenty of ways to do that by going to cubsoutloud.com, leaving a comment on the blog, shoot us an email at cubsoutloud@gmail.com, leaving us voicemail at 361-COL-TALK. That's 361-265-8255. We haven't been getting many calls to that. We would love to hear your sexy voices. You can also find us on the various social media outlets, Blue Sky, Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube, at Cubs Out Loud, the appropriate place to the URL. You can join our entourage chat on Telegram at bit.ly/telegram-COL. Find out when we're planning on recording these shows at our Google Calendar at bit.ly/calendar-COL. You can also get various accoutrements, such as the Consent is My Foreplay shirt, whatever the Bears say these days, or Cubs, or various other things. A made-to-be shirt. Over at zazzle.com/cubsoutloud. Some of the designs were designed by Smash. You can find more of his work at tpublic.com/user/smashingthebear. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/cubsoutloud, or send us a donation at paypal.me/cubsoutloud to keep the lights on. You can please pop over to the various podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, etc., and rate us and review us there. Puts us better up in the algorithm. You can find me anywhere on the internet as Boxset, Box Puppy, Box Cub, Box something or other. And by the way, I think I'm mostly just Box Cub nowadays. Damon?
Yes, sir. If you can help me, you can find me as Theater Cub 79. That's TheaterCub79 on most fair sites. Or you can find me as pup_Umbra on the one site, or pup_Umbra79 on Blue Sky. Those are not safe for work. For safe for work stuff, you want to go to DMAGamer79 on TikTok, Blue Sky, and that other site.
If you would like to get in touch with me, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as Gaber73. Hadrian, if folks would like to get in touch with you or follow your content, where would they do so?
My website is professional-pervert.com. And you can find me on Blue Sky as McQuaig. That's McQuaig. And I am Daddy McQuaig on most other things, but Professional-Perfect gives you a link to all of those.
Nice.
And with that, say goodnight, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good one, y'all.
Bye-bye.